Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear us.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
Christy, Will, you two guys, we do have a quorum.
What space here. Oh man, this is great. Get used to this.
Thank you everyone for getting together here.
What time's your flight?
Tomorrow morning, we need to be in O'Hare at the O'Hare Airport by 7. So we'll be leaving very early tomorrow morning. But an opportunity to try to get this done. I appreciate it.
Hope that this makes one less thing floating around in the back of your mind.
Yeah. And we have started to get some applicants for the bookkeeping position. We'll take care of that when I get back. But also I had Marcia's been willing to come in and work. We've agreed upon a price for her highly valuable time. And she's been coming in and doing a few hours for us in the mornings.
What services is Wasbo offering?
I have been in contact with CISA 5. So Wasbo reached out. CISA 5 is out of the La Crosse area. They provide this service for several other school districts on more of a full-time basis, so to speak. I mean, they serve as that provider. And I just said, we're looking for an interim. We need payroll to take place. We need to make sure accounts payable are run through. I can certainly try to work with Marcia on a little bit of this too, but I don't want to say, hey, Marcia, guess what? Thanks for retiring. Now I'm going to bring you back full time as well. She's more than willing to help us out, but I don't want to take advantage, and welcome or stay with that. So they have some people. I've talked to the director up there, and he is trying to reach out to his people and to the school districts that have contacted them about their services, kind of see what those schools are needing. He was hopefully going to get back to me today. I've not heard from him at all today, but I did talk to him yesterday, which was Monday, and I think, and then Friday last week, I spoke to him Friday afternoon. So I think they're working to try to come up with a potential solution to at least help us out if we need some help. And I'm like, I don't know that we need somebody here 5 days a week. In the interim, Wasbo would be willing to help provide some training. Marcia has said she would come back and help provide some training. And then that would be above and beyond. Wasbo has conferences that are for business officials, that they would provide some training outside of those kinds of things. So.
Okay. As long as you feel like we can get the work done without any, risk of error. I'll take a moment for public comment period. For anyone online?
You certainly can. It wasn't in the agenda, and for any kind of a special and/or emergency meeting, that's typically not part of the agenda. But if
I see there's one non-board member.
you wish to open that up, you certainly can.
We definitely exceed our need for form. We're good.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. How's everyone doing today?
Good, Bob. How are yourself?
Oh, doing all right. I was on mute.
Laptop's been seal coated and painted.
That's great.
Around here, path around, so everything's looking really good. A lot of seals, cracks being sealed, so I'm wondering how long this will buy us, especially like on the walking path and things around the school, but it'll get us some more time yet. Stair treads, all 3 stairwells have now been completed. The guys were just in today to finish this back stairwell, so that job is checked off the to-do list. A few other things still in the works that are coming along. Our door replacement. A phone call went out last week and they were like 3 weeks out. So should be prior to school starting, but if not, we have had doors replaced during the school day. Fortunately for us, there are a couple of the doors that will be locked moving forward. So I think them just being blocked off will be an okay thing too if they're here at the start of the school year to do some of those, finish some of those things.
I got 4:30.
I got 4:30 as well.
Into order.
Yeah, call the meeting to order. Do roll call. Doing roll call. Bush.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Eisner.
Here.
Janetka.
Here.
Johnston.
Here.
Kelding. Okay.
Okay. We'll take a moment for public comment. If anyone online wants to make a comment before we start, this is the item on the agenda is approving the hire for the maintenance director position. Nobody? Okay. Mr. Wainwright, you want to introduce the hire and the process to get there?
We posted the position, had 6 applicants in our initial round. Well, I'll back up even further. I had an in-house candidate who had expressed interest. We had several conversations around, were they ready to move into that role? I felt confident that they were ready for the role. Through our conversations, things seemed to be progressing that way, that an internal candidate would take over. And then first part of May, that individual presented me with their 2-week notice that they would be leaving the school district and no longer working here. We posted the job, interviewed 6 candidates. The interview committee, a couple of teachers and a couple of administrators, and then our former maintenance director who could answer questions was part of that interview group. There were clearly 2 top candidates. We offered candidate number 1. The salary offer, according to candidate 1, was a very attractive offer. Wanted some time to think and discuss with his family, and then called me a couple of days later and declined our offer. The interview committee was approving of if 1 turned us down to turn to candidate number 2, had lengthy conversation with candidate number 2. Again, exact same salary offer, acceptable. And the weekend came and went, and on the day of the June board meeting, our second candidate, who was all on about accepting the job, called me on that Monday of the board meeting and had to then decline the offer. So that put us in a bind. I have a local candidate who is interested coming into the July board meeting, and then change of heart. So we tabled the decision in July. The most recent candidate is also an internal candidate. And the interview committee got together again, minus our previous maintenance director, but the interview committee interviewed the candidate, had a lengthy discussion with him, and then just the committee itself. It's a unanimous recommendation. The candidate is Dave DeVoe, And we had a conversation around why didn't you apply in the first go round? And he said, well, the kind of the preference giving to someone who had a bus driver's license or willing to get the bus driver's license kind of held them back. We had conversations around that. It's like, it's not mandatory. There are some other options that we can take advantage of. My position is that we're not trying to find substitutes for first student and bus driving. If they choose to do that, I fully support it. It was what can we get out of this? So if we need to evacuate the building, we currently had 3 people with licenses, and 3 buses could get this building out in basically one trip with all 3, and then another trip with another bus would get everybody out of here, or it would be able to pick us up as we were leaving site if there was something, a gas leak, bomb threat, something, and we needed to evacuate it. It was a convenience for us. And the other area dealt with our citywide cleanup. We do. I've never been charged for a bus, but in the past, Roger has, with a bus driver's license, dropped off students at different locations to help aid that community cleanup day. We'll pick them up, and it was just a very convenient thing for the school district to have that. We will certainly look in other areas. We might be able to tap into some other resources for that, but this individual having to have that is not necessarily a requirement to the position. So again, the salary was discussed, would be the same salary that was offered to candidates 1 and 2. That dollar amount is $60,000. It is slightly less than what Roger would have made this next year. So there is some cost savings to the district with this offer. Dave has actually been serving in a leadership capacity all summer long with our summer crew and cleanup and kind of working between the 2 buildings. Has demonstrated some really good leadership skills and has a desire to grow and help make the position, take the position to the next step forward. So I can say it's a unanimous recommendation that we offer the position to Dave DeVoe. With a motion to accept that, if the board so chooses, I would also ask then, as Dave is currently serving as a custodian, that we post his position immediately.
Okay, well, I'll take a motion to approve this position, and then we can go into discussion unless anyone has clarification questions prior to a motion.
Clarification question. The original interview panel included the retiring or outgoing individual who held this position, and then this last round did not. Do you have any reason to think that that individual would not be supportive of this candidate stepping forward?
I do not. I had conversations with the former director, and he would be in support of this person taking over as well.
To ensure that it wasn't, we left him off because he would have not been supportive of that direction.
Correct. That is not the case.
I move that we approve the hire of the listed candidate for the position of maintenance director.
Yeah, I'll take a second. Oh, and Bob, and post to replace Dave's prior.
Yes, and also post to replace the candidate's current position.
Would like to second that motion?
Second motion.
Any comments or discussion from the board members online?
I have a quick question. Who is in charge of oversight of this position?
Superintendent. So I would be.
How often do you do a performance review?
Well, I won't call it a formal performance review, but Roger and I met at least weekly to kind of go over how things are coming, whether it was during the building project, prior to the building project, or post building project. So, I mean, there's reviews that take place on a pretty regular basis.
I mean, are the weekly meetings are like status of the district and this is how things are going, or like, how do you feel like your job is going, or, are you have any goals for your position?
With Roger, it was
Yeah.
more of the status of the district. With
Right.
this current position will be, how can we best support you? What are you seeing? What goals do you have? And some of those things came out in our interview questions too. About one question was specifically, what do you see yourself doing if given, if this position becomes yours, day one, month one, year one? What are some goals that you would have for this position? So we've already had that conversation through the interview, and would come back to those and revisit those as we progress through the school year and through the fiscal year.
We lost one maintenance worker this summer. While Dave was kind of interim manager, is that?
We lost somebody right at the end of the school year. That individual gave me a 2-week notice prior to the school being out. So that was when Roger was still here, basically, as the maintenance director. Yes.
Mitch, you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Our maintenance staff, so we have, Roger retired. We had another individual who is choosing to leave the district. And now this candidate will be brought forward, or will move up. So our staff is very thin.
Very thin.
Does this individual have any experience in recruiting and hiring staff?
I don't know if he has any friends that he can reach out to. The school district does the recruiting. He would be certainly involved in the onboarding and hiring and training and those kinds of things, and is well aware of the fact that while this will become more of a director's position in the interim, he realizes and is well aware and shared it within the interview process that he's going to have to be hands-on for a lot of things while we try to get this position filled.
How long has he worked for the district, Mitch?
5 years.
Okay. And has he been satisfactory in his performance?
Yes.
Okay.
Mitch, the teachers that you said that were on the hiring committee, are they from both the middle school, high school, and the elementary school?
Yes, they are.
So in addition to leadership skills that you've seen while he has been in his role over the summer, getting things ready, you feel that his interpersonal skills are where they need to be to lead?
I do. And he has said it. In a prior position, he was in a leadership role for, I believe he said it was 15 years. So he has experience in a leadership role. And there are obviously things that we all can work on as leaders. And he is aware there were questions about strengths and weaknesses. And, he knows things that he would like to work on and to improve his skills in those areas as well. And we feel that there is enough support in administration to give that to Dave as we go forward.
How much exposure did Dave get to the elementary remodel project?
Very limited. And we know that the prior individual had more as some of the trainings were taking place. But we also know that these companies are willing to come out and work with the new hire. Those conversations were taking place before Roger was officially done with us. And he'd made some of those contacts we have. some of that information, and those companies are willing to come out and we talked about having more than just Dave have the training. If it's at the elementary, we want Dave and Dan to have some of that training so that there are more than one individual that have some of that background knowledge and some of the training. Dan has had some, but we would do the same thing up here too. We want to make sure that there's more than one person that has some of that knowledge.
Speaking of that, can you talk a little more about the onboarding process? How much time is Roger going to spend training, orienting him? You mentioned some of the companies, the contractors coming out.
I've had conversations with Roger about whoever, especially when we knew the previous individual we have been working on that left us first part of May. He was willing to work with that individual, wouldn't have taken as much. He's willing to work with whoever we get in this position, and I would leave that really more so up to who is ever replacing. In this case, there's a lot of familiarity with this building, so there wouldn't probably be as much time needed for the systems here, but probably spend a little bit more time down at the elementary school learning those systems and then bringing those people in. I would leave that up to this individual to kind of determine, hey, I could use another day, or I could really use the heating cooling guys to come down, and just go through this computer program one more time with me or something of that nature. So I think it's going to have to be flexible. Having an internal candidate provides some relief for some of those systems, but obviously the two different buildings having two different systems that we need down at the elementary school.
Any other comments, questions on the position?
And you have approved us being part of SWEEP, which is that Southwest custodial group. They have meetings as well, so I will have Dave get connected with another area maintenance director and then be a part of those meetings. So there'll be some learning that can take place there. He's also talked about wanting to bring people in to help train any new or retrain some of our current employees to just make sure, hey, we're using the products the right way, using the equipment the right way, and just give everybody kind of a refreshing course as well. Kind of help pump things up here a little bit. I mean, we know that we're seriously understaffed, and we have been all summer long, and yet this group has done a fantastic job working to get both buildings ready for the start of school.
I want to be a little pessimistic for just a minute, but this feels like a very neat and tidy solution to a problem that has been dogging us since last spring. So I'm a little skeptical, like what questions are we not asking, or this feels a little too good to be true. Like I said, too neat and tidy of a solution for a really messy problem that's been hanging around for a while.
And I would certainly support that feeling had I been the only one to conduct the interview. And I had the conversation with the candidate, when we got to the July board meeting and he saw that the position was tabled, that we didn't have an offer. He came forward to me and talked about being interested in the position. I said, well, this isn't going to just be a Mitch Wainwright decision. You're going to go through the same process everybody else went through. So that's why I'd asked the other people part of that interview committee to come in and go through the process and really have that conversation. And I know that that's going to be the perception as well, but all members of the committee were supportive of this offer and recommendation coming to the school board, so that the individual went through the same process everybody else did.
And I am comforted by the fact that he had prior leadership experience and also 5 years of service here, and you still feel comfortable, and the prior director feels comfortable hiring him into this role. That gives me it helps ameliorate the feeling that, it's too good to be true,
Correct. No, I understand that. That's why I wanted to make sure that this individual went through the same process all other candidates and applicants did.
And I appreciate.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just was going to say, I appreciate, Mitch, your getting him kind of lined up with sweep and things like that, making sure he's aware of some resources for him right off the bat to maybe help the transition go a little more smoothly. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You stated that you asked why he hesitated, I guess, to apply earlier. Do you feel like all of those concerns that he may have had were addressed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Hey, Mitch,
Yep.
this is Will. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I worked on the summer crew my junior and senior year of high school, and then, obviously participated in sports and went to school here. And I just know that Roger put a lot of time in, kind of off hours, if there was any kind of emergency with the buildings, he was there. In fact, I had spoken to his wife earlier this year, and she said, she had worked as a secretary at the school as well, and just that they were looking forward to having, a new chapter in their lives that wasn't all about the school sort of all the time. And that comment kind of stuck with me as we were talking about hiring for this position, and just sort of remembering Roger being at every basketball game and football game, and there in the daytime and anytime anything went wrong. And so I guess my question is, and I don't know how much of that was just Roger or how much of it was expectations, that are laid out in the job description, because I haven't seen it. And I just want to make sure, I guess, that we've communicated well the expectations around those sorts of things, like being at sporting events and other things, if that is indeed mandatory. And if it's not mandatory and this candidate doesn't plan on doing those things, how we will address that gap that Roger was filling. So that's sort of a question. I'll just leave it to you to answer.
Sure. I completely understand. And we've had every candidate, we've had that question, they've had that question. And so, part of it was Roger being Roger and having nieces and nephews and grandchildren and children and things in a lot of the sporting events. He even said, when he took the job, the expectation was to have the gym set up. There was no necessarily an expectation for Roger to be at every home sporting event. I think Roger certainly looked at that as, I might know how to fix the PA system or the score clock or whatever the case may be. One of the questions asked of every candidate was, do you feel that you are solely responsible for any emergency that might arise at any time of the day, including in the middle of the night or 3 a.m. or whatever the case may be? This particular candidate had said, yep, I do believe that that's my responsibility. So if there's a pipe burst, it's my responsibility to come to school, make sure the water's turned off. And then if I have to get in touch with a plumber first thing in the morning, that's their responsibility. So they are well aware that, that kind of falls to them, and not necessarily that they have to fix everything, but can they respond and at least address the immediate need? This candidate also shared in that particular answer, they only live 2 blocks away from the high school. So they understand that there is an ease and convenience for them to be able to get here. We did talk about the number of sporting events and those kinds of things. And we did talk about trying to make sure that things are set up. So that might mean, if time allowed, you're getting the football field ready for a football game on a Friday night or a Monday night. And if you can't, hopefully you have trained somebody else that can help get that done. You're setting up the gym for volleyball, you're getting those things ready. But then it also comes down to, we need to make sure that we're training other people. And the candidate said, I'm only a phone call away, and 2 blocks is no time for me to get here if something comes up that can't be addressed through some of the trainings we've provided. And typically it is, one of the scoreboards not working, or score panels not working, or the sound system is acting up. Can we provide enough training to enough people so that those problems can be addressed to the best of our ability. And this individual still feels, yeah, if I'm the director, I am ultimately responsible and understands that.
The director, will he be responsible for being in both buildings on a regular basis? Even if he has somebody kind of head of each building, an expectation that he's in the elementary school every day or at least several times a week?
I would say several times a week, you know, and that was pretty commonplace for Roger, and also on call. We have a walkie-talkie system or the cell phones, you know, they might call Roger if something came up. Roger would go down and address it. But yes, this is a district-wide position, and as we can move it forward, there will be that expectation to get out and be in both locations and make a trip out to the option school as well. I mean, we do go out and provide some cleaning and things there, you know, but making sure we get out there to involve that school.
Hey, Mitch, one question. Are we in a closed session right now, or is it open to everybody?
This is open.
It's open. Okay. I guess my final question, sort of along the lines of what I can't remember who asked it now, but anyway, I think it was Joni. You know, feeling like kind of a neat and tidy replacement. That along those lines of thinking. I was just curious, you know, with where Roger's at today, and where this candidate's at, you know, if you could give a percent of where Roger's at today with this candidate, you know, like in terms of how much learning there will be to shore it up. Is he like 90% of the way there, 80% of where Roger is today? If that makes sense, just to kind of know where we're entering in this relationship in terms of the learning curve.
I would probably, and because of the elementary building having a lot of different systems than what the middle school, high school building has, I would say probably somewhere in that 60% range. Purely because there's a sprinkler system down at the elementary school. It's a different fire alarm system down at the elementary school. It's a different heating and cooling company to work with at the elementary school versus this school building. But on that note, I would say, I mean, if you know how to log into the computer system and check things on this system in this building, it shouldn't be drastically different at the elementary school. It's just a different company and a different contact person if something's going wrong. So obviously a steeper learning curve at the elementary school because he wasn't involved in a lot of those things at that level. But I think very, very interested in learning, very eager to learn and take on more responsibilities and make sure that he is successful at both buildings and within the district.
And
remember
thanks for answering
too,
that question. Just to finish, Bob, I guess just
okay.
To say that, piggybacking on that, then, you know, I'd recommend he spends a lot of time at the elementary school in his first month or two to catch him up then, and to make sure that we're, you know, getting the best quality of service to our teachers and our students and staff there at the elementary school. And if you feel confident that, you know, he's capable of learning those things, let's just get the training done and get him caught up, you know, whatever he needs. And, you know, I feel like I can support the candidacy. Go ahead, Bob.
Sorry to interrupt. I think one of the things I would just mention too is that if we were to hire somebody from, you know, outside the district completely, they'd be at 0% as far as knowing the buildings directly. So I think Will, that's a good point that he spent some extra time over at the elementary school, but I think we should look at it more as a super positive that he has any experience with any of our buildings. Rather than, you know, a negative that he doesn't have the experience with the elementary school that he does with the middle and high. So,
and I fully support that thought process, Will. But I also look at it's going to depend on how quickly we can fill his position here at the Height Middle School, high school building, because he was the daytime custodian. So if we can get that filled prior to school starting, one, I'd be ecstatic, but two, then it would free up Dave to be able to do that and be down at the elementary school a little bit more and become more familiar with those systems and everything down there. So no, that is, your point is well taken. And I think it's important that we do make sure that that happens.
Any other comments? Okay, shall we vote on the motion?
Hey. Approve recommendation of Dave DeVoe and post maintenance position being vacated. Is the motion. Janetka,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Skelding, it's gone. Eisner,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
done. Motion passes.
Anything else on the agenda?
There is nothing else on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn this meeting. Thank you for attending.
Make the motion to adjourn.
I get a second and then we'll,
I'll second.
I'll second.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
You too.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.